Welcome, dear listener. You found your way once again to the Sleepy Historian, where the past drifts slowly by like candlelight flickering on ancient stone walls. If this kind of gentle storytelling helps you rest, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And let me know, softly, in the comments below, where you're listening from and what time it is. It's strangely comforting to know who else is out there, somewhere in the quiet dark, falling asleep to the same old stories. Tonight, we'll wander through the quiet corridors of a medieval monastery, a place where chants echoed beneath vaulted ceilings, and time seemed to stretch like parchment beneath a quill. This is boring history for sleep, an invitation to drift through the world of the past without hurry, without noise. A soft-spoken history documentary, crafted not to excite, but to soothe, calm bedtime storytelling for minds that seek stillness. As you settle deeper into comfort, imagine the world as it was nearly 1,000 years ago. Imagine the cool stone of monastery walls, the rhythmic toll of a distant bell marking the hours of prayer, the scent of beeswax and old herbs drifting through the air. Within these walls, monks studied not only scripture, but the mysteries of the body and the soul. Their world was one of devotion, discipline, and quiet curiosity, a place where healing was as much a spiritual act as it was a physical one. This evening's journey is titled The Mysterious Healing Practices of Medieval Monks. We will explore how these serene men tended to the sick, how they preserved knowledge from ancient worlds, and how they saw health as a divine balance between body, spirit, and a natural world. Our story will unfold gently in 4 parts. First, we'll begin with daily life immersion, walking beside a monk through his day, from early prayers to the tending of the infirmary garden. Then, we'll move into a biography, meeting one of history's quiet healers, perhaps an apothecary monk who blended faith with science. Next comes mystery and culture, uncovering the strange, sacred, and sometimes secret knowledge hidden in herbal manuscripts and healing rituals. And finally, we'll contrast the social and elite worlds, exploring how the monks' calm compassion stood apart from the harsher realities beyond the cloister walls. So, if your eyes begin to grow heavy as we move through these stories, that's perfectly fine. Let the steady rhythm of the past guide you toward rest. Let your breathing slow, as if you were walking the monastery halls yourself, candle in hand, hearing only your own soft footsteps and the distant whisper of Gregorian chant. Relax into this history sleep story. This is not a tale of great battles or kings, but of quiet healers, of leaves and roots, of whispered prayers, and the slow turning of medieval seasons. The past can be a lullaby if you listen closely enough. So dim the lights. Let the monks' chants echo softly in your imagination. Let the myths, the herbs, and the mysteries unfold. And let's begin. Imagine yourself awakening to the soft, almost imperceptible light filtering through tall, narrow windows of a stone monastery. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of damp earth mixed with the lingering aroma of burning beeswax. Outside, the first hints of morning are spreading over distant hills, where mist clings to the trees and the quiet world waits for the day to unfold. Within the monastery, however, life stirs in a rhythm far removed from the bustling towns beyond the walls. Here, time flows slowly, measured in the tolling of bells and the soft rustle of robes along cold stone floors. The day begins before sunrise, in the dim hush of the chapel. You imagine a monk, perhaps Brother Elric, rising from his modest cot, stretching beneath a woolen blanket that smells faintly of herbs and worn fabric. He moves silently, careful not to disturb the sleep of his fellow monks, and makes his way to the chapel. The morning prayers, called matins, are chanted in unison. Their voices are calm and steady, a gentle undulating rhythm that seems almost to float above the stone floors. Even if you're only imagining yourself here, the cadence has a subtle hypnotic effect, lulling the mind into quiet awareness a soft focus that allows the past to feel tangible. After prayers, the monks proceed to their morning duties. In the infirmary, you can hear the occasional scrape of wooden tools against stone sinks, the soft rustle of cloth bandages being prepared. The air here is tinged with the herbal scents of comfrey, yarrow, and sage. These plants, carefully tended in the monastery gardens, hold a revered place in monastic medicine. Their leaves are not merely decoration. They are central to the delicate balance of health as understood by these quiet healers. Imagine the careful motions of hands, aged but steady, crushing leaves, mixing powders, and preparing simple poultices. Each movement is deliberate, almost ritualistic, yet entirely practical, aimed at bringing comfort to the sick rather than performing a spectacle. In the kitchen, the rhythm is slower but equally methodical. Monks grind grains for bread, stir thick stews, and tend simmering pots of herbal infusions. The aroma of barley, root vegetables, and dried herbs rises gently into the air, mingling with the faint smell of smoke from the hearth. Meals are simple, nourishing, and taken in silence or quiet conversation. Picture yourself seated at a long wooden table, noticing the careful etiquette. Bowls are passed gently, bread broken with thoughtful slowness, and each sip of warm broth is savored. Even mundane tasks are steeped in mindfulness, a constant awareness of balance, of restraint, of harmony with the day. Later in the morning, the cloistered garden calls. Monks tend plants both for sustenance and for healing. Lavender, rosemary, and marjoram grow alongside medicinal roots like valerian and angelica. Imagine your fingers brushing past soft leaves, inhaling their calming scents, while the distant church bells mark the hour. This is the time when observation becomes education. The plants are studied, their properties cataloged in quiet manuscripts, notes made about their uses and effects. Here, knowledge is preserved and transmitted gently, a slow accumulation of wisdom rather than a race for recognition. Even simple maintenance tasks, sweeping the stone floors, carrying water from the well, repairing worn garments, become part of the rhythm of life. Each act is deliberate, grounding, and contributes to the serene functioning of the community. The monastery is more than a building. It is a living organism, where every member has a role and every gesture, however small, supports the collective harmony. The day is structured yet unhurried, the monotony of routine itself offering a meditative comfort, both to those within its walls and, perhaps, to those who imagine themselves walking these halls from afar. As the morning wanes, some monks retreat to quiet reading or study. Their manuscripts, illuminated with soft pigments and gold leaf, contain not only scripture, but also herbal lore, remedies, and philosophical reflections on the human body and soul. Imagine opening one of these pages, running your eyes over the careful script, noting the delicate drawings of plants, the precise outlines of their roots and leaves. There is a gentle curiosity in every detail, a sense that understanding comes through patient observation rather than sudden revelation. By late morning, the pace remains calm but purposeful. The infirmary continues its steady work. The garden thrives under attentive hands, and the quiet murmur of study persists in the scriptorium. You, the listener, are now fully immersed in this rhythm, a world where time is measured by work, contemplation, and a gentle passing of hours rather than clocks or markets. Here, the healing practices of the monks, rooted in observation, ritual, and a deep respect for the natural world, unfold like a slow, deliberate dance. Every gesture is part of a continuum, every moment a small note in a larger, comforting cadence. The beauty of this daily life lies in its quiet precision, its attention to the smallest details. From the careful preparation of herbal remedies to the meticulous copying of texts, each act is imbued with mindfulness. Imagine following Brother Elric as he moves from task to task, each step deliberate, each breath measured. The outside world, with its chaos and clamor, seems impossibly distant, as if the monastery itself were a timeless sanctuary. offering a gentle refuge for the body and the mind alike. And as you picture this day unfolding, the gentle rhythm of monastic life begins to wrap itself around you. Each action, each sound, each scent blends into a lullaby of existence that is at once historical and deeply soothing. You may find your eyelids growing heavier, your mind wandering in tandem with the slow, deliberate motion of the monks. This is the world into which we now step fully, a world where healing is an art of patience, and calm is the true currency of life. As the morning transitions into midday, the monastery hums with a subdued yet persistent rhythm. Imagine yourself moving alongside Brother Elric, now carrying a basket of freshly gathered herbs from the garden toward the infirmary. The sun has climbed higher, and its gentle warmth filters through the narrow windows, casting pale rectangles of light across the cold stone floors. The air is rich with mingling scents, the sharp freshness of mint and thyme, the earthy aroma of soil still clinging to roots, and the faint tang of dried flowers hanging from wooden beams. Inside the infirmary, the sick and weary are tended with meticulous care. The monk's approach to healing is grounded not in spectacle, but in observation and patience. A small boy with a persistent fever sits quietly on a wooden bench, swaddled in woolen blankets. Brother Elric dips a small brush into a jar of herbal tincture, applying it gently to the boy's forehead. The action is calm, deliberate, and quiet, more a gesture of reassurance than a hurried treatment. The boy's parents sit nearby, their anxiety softened by the monk's steady presence. Even the faintest smile from a caregiver seems to carry a weight of comfort across the otherwise still room. You might notice the instruments in the infirmary: simple knives for slicing roots, pestles for grinding leaves, and clay pots for boiling gentle decoctions. Nothing is ostentatious, nothing is rushed. The monks' tools are extensions of their minds and hands, chosen for utility and durability, reflecting a philosophy in which every object must serve its purpose thoughtfully. You can almost feel the quiet deliberation in the motions, the grinding of dried chamomile, the precise weighing of powdered roots, the careful layering of compresses on a troubled joint or swollen limb. Midday in the monastery is also marked by a short pause for reflection and nourishment. The monks gather in silence for a modest meal: barley porridge, a few slices of coarse bread, perhaps cheese or dried fruit. The air hums with quiet conversation, voices low and measured, punctuated by the scrape of wooden spoons and the occasional clink of bowls. You imagine the taste of warm porridge, its gentle sweetness mingling with the earthy bitterness of herbs chewed slowly between bites. Meals are as much about restoring the spirit as nourishing the body, a practice repeated day after day with gentle rhythm. After eating, some monks return to the garden, while others take up writing or copying manuscripts. In the scriptorium, the light is soft, falling across tables cluttered with parchment and quills. The sound of scratching ink on paper is the only auditory disturbance, each stroke deliberate and thoughtful. The pages being transcribed often contain botanical illustrations, showing the form and texture of leaves, roots, and flowers with painstaking accuracy. You can almost feel the quiet devotion required to trace each delicate line, the patience that transforms simple observation into lasting knowledge. Monastic life is not without its moments of challenge, though they are approached with steady composure. If a visitor arrives, perhaps seeking a remedy or advice, the monks greet them with calm attentiveness. You can imagine the visitor's nervous hands, the worry etched across their face, and the monk's gentle words, offering guidance without hurry or judgment. The healing rituals are imbued with quiet symbolism, prayers whispered over herbal mixtures, the careful alignment of poultices, the measured timing of treatments according to the movement of the day. All of these practices are intended to restore balance, to mend both body and mind, without stirring anxiety or fear. As the sun reaches its zenith, the monastery garden seems to breathe along with its inhabitants. Leaves shimmer under gentle light, and the faint rustle of branches in the wind carries a soothing rhythm. The monk's tasks, though precise, blend seamlessly into the overall cadence of life. Observation, preparation, application, reflection. Each action contributes to a steady harmony, an ongoing meditation expressed through labor and care. You, imagining yourself here, feel the gentle weight of time, the long hours stretching comfortably, the day unfolding at a pace measured by intention rather than urgency. In these moments, the healing practices of the monks are inseparable from their way of life. Medicine is intertwined with daily routine, study, and devotion. The balance they seek between work and rest, observation and reflection, body and spirit, is mirrored in every quiet gesture and measured step. You may notice, even from a distance, that the calm they cultivate seems almost contagious, wrapping around the mind like a soft cloak. Thoughts slow, breathing deepens. The monastery, with its stone walls, herbal scents, and gentle rhythms, becomes not merely a setting, but a subtle guide toward ease and rest. By late afternoon, the monotony of tasks transforms into a comforting pattern. Each sweep of the broom, each turn of soil in the garden, each careful pouring of herbal infusion contributes to a sustained tranquility. Even in the face of illness or weariness, the monks' movements are steady, and their care is measured, offering reassurance more than urgency. You imagine yourself walking these halls, pausing to watch a monk's hands crush a sprig of thyme, noting the warm amber light as it touches the stone, and sensing the slow, persistent heartbeat of monastic life. In this slow march of hours, we begin to understand the essence of the monk's world. Healing is not simply an act, but a state of being. Their knowledge, painstakingly observed and quietly recorded, flows through their daily rhythm like a gentle river, guiding both patients and practitioners toward balance. And as you picture this calm, deliberate life, your own mind begins to settle. The world outside, the clamor, the rush, is distant, almost inconceivable, while within this imagined monastery, the passage of time itself is soft, measured, and infinitely comforting. As afternoon drifts slowly into evening, the monastery assumes a softer, more introspective atmosphere. Imagine yourself walking through the cloistered corridors, where the sunlight has faded to a gentle golden hue, casting long, slanted shadows across worn stone floors. The air is cooler now, carrying a faint scent of dried herbs and the lingering warmth of the afternoon sun. Monks move with measured steps, their activities subdued, the rhythm of the day slowing naturally toward rest and reflection. In the infirmary, attention shifts from active treatment to observation and care. Brother Elric sits beside a patient, perhaps an elderly villager with a persistent cough or a monk recovering from a minor ailment. His movements are gentle and deliberate, adjusting blankets, checking poultices, or quietly noting changes in a small manuscript. There is a calm attentiveness here. Every gesture matters, yet none are hurried. Even in moments of difficulty, there is no panic, only the careful orchestration of knowledge, ritual, and observation. Imagine the patient's relief, the subtle comfort of touch and presence, and the assurance offered by routine and ritual rather than frantic effort. Meanwhile, in the scriptorium, the remaining monks continue their transcription, but the pace is intentionally slower. The quill scratches softly against the parchment as intricate illustrations of medicinal plants are traced with care. Each leaf, root, and stem is depicted with precise observation, an enduring record of centuries of accumulated wisdom. Perhaps a marginal note indicates the best season to gather a particular herb, or the preferred method to prepare it as a tonic or poultice. Imagine the faint scent of ink mingling with the aroma of dried flowers and the quiet rustle of robes as the monks move between tables, checking one another's work, sharing a word of guidance, then returning to the calm solitude of study. In the cloister garden, the light wanes and the shadows lengthen. Monks perform last rounds of watering and tending, carefully inspecting plants for signs of disease or readiness for harvest. You might notice small bundles of sage, rosemary, or thyme being gathered, tied with thin twine, and placed gently on a wooden shelf to dry. The act is quiet, deliberate, and almost ceremonial, a reflection of the monk's belief that healing begins with reverence for the living world. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant chiming of the evening bell, and the whisper of wind through the garden combine to create a gentle, immersive soundscape, inviting the mind to slow alongside the day. Evening prayer, or vespers, begins as the sun dips below the horizon. Imagine entering the dim chapel, where candlelight flickers across stone walls and the air is filled with the subtle warmth of wax and incense. The monks chant together in a rhythm that is calm yet profoundly grounding. Each note resonates softly, echoing through vaulted ceilings and long corridors. Even if your eyes are closed, you can imagine the resonance filling the space, the gentle swell and fall of voices creating a natural lullaby. The words themselves are less important than the cadence, the consistent and soothing pattern of sound that marks the passage of the day. After prayers, some monks retreat for quiet contemplation or personal study. Others make final preparations for the infirmary, replenishing water, adjusting beds, or checking on the smallest details that maintain the sanctuary's calm. Even mundane actions are imbued with purpose, and the rhythm of care and observation continues to reinforce the sense of order and stability. Imagine yourself watching these routines unfold, the serenity of deliberate motion contrasted against the turbulent world outside the monastery walls. Dinner is simple, taken in silence or a quiet conversation. Warm broth, coarse bread, and lightly cooked vegetables provide nourishment, while the muted sounds of spoons and bowls against wooden tables add another layer to the monastery's soft evening chorus. You might notice the subtle repetition of gestures, breaking bread, sipping broth, folding hands, whispering a word of thanks. The simplicity of the meal is comforting, almost meditative, a gentle counterpoint to the intricacy of daily work and study. As night deepens, the monks extinguish candles in some rooms, leaving only a few flickering lights to guide those tending the sick. The remaining sounds are subdued, the faint creak of doors, the rustle of fabric, the occasional distant footstep. The air cools further, carrying the earthy scent of dried herbs and stone. Imagine walking through these corridors now, feeling the calm density of the night, the soft weight of routine, and the slow passage of time marked not by clocks, but by quiet observation, care, and devotion. In these hours, the healing practices of the monks are inseparable from their entire way of life. Their knowledge is applied in a manner both gentle and deliberate, rooted in careful observation, ritual, and deep empathy. From tending herbs to attending the infirmary, from chanting in the chapel to writing in the scriptorium, every act is a note in a continuous lullaby of care. And as you picture this life unfolding, the rhythm and steadiness become almost palpable, inviting your own thoughts to slow, your breathing to deepen, and your consciousness to drift toward rest. In this gentle evening, you realize the quiet miracle of monastic life, a community dedicated to healing, reflection, and the patient unfolding of wisdom. Here, in this imagined sanctuary of stone, herbs, and prayer, time itself feels softened, each day a careful balance of work, study, devotion, and care. And in imagining yourself within these walls, surrounded by the calm diligence of the monks, you begin to feel a subtle surrender to tranquility, a readiness to let the day and the history lull you toward rest. Imagine yourself in the quiet of a late medieval evening, a single candle flickering on a wooden desk as Brother Hildebrand, a monk of modest stature and quiet determination, bends over a manuscript. Hildebrand is not widely known outside the cloistered walls, yet his contributions to healing practices are quietly profound. You can picture him, robes draped over simple sandals, hunched over parchment, quill moving deliberately as he records observations gathered from years of tending the sick. His eyes are sharp, attentive to detail, yet softened by the gentle patience cultivated in a life devoted to both faith and the pursuit of knowledge. Hildebrand's day begins with a rhythm of prayer and manual labor, much like his fellow monks. Yet he possesses a subtle curiosity that draws him into the infirmary more often than others. He observes the patients closely, noting their symptoms, the pace of their recovery, and the effects of herbs applied in various ways. Imagine him carefully mixing dried marjoram and chamomile into a gentle poultice, murmuring a soft blessing over it before applying it to a patient's aching limbs. The scent of crushed herbs fills the air, mingling with the warmth of sunlight spilling across the stone floor, and there is a deliberate calm in his movements that reassures both patient and observer. What distinguishes Hildebrand is his methodical approach. Unlike some monks who follow treatments purely by tradition, he observes, records, and refines. He notes which plants soothe fevers, which compresses relieve pain, and the subtle shifts in energy and color that indicate improvement or stagnation. You might imagine the soft scratching of quill against parchment as he documents the day's findings, his hands steady despite hours of meticulous labor. These records, preserved in careful script, become a quiet legacy, a window into the fusion of practical knowledge and contemplative devotion. Even amidst illness and suffering, Hildebrand maintains a calm, objective perspective. He acknowledges the reality of disease, the harshness of human frailty, yet he avoids the sensational or dramatic. Imagine him observing a patient whose life hangs delicately in balance, noting the slowed breathing, the pallor of skin, and the gradual improvement after careful care and herbal application. There is no spectacle here, only a measured, almost ritualistic attention to detail. In this quiet attention, he honors both the patient and the subtle laws of nature that govern health. Hildebrand's evenings are spent partly in the scriptorium, transcribing ancient texts that contain the wisdom of predecessors, Greek, Roman, and early medieval sources. You can picture the delicate illumination of these manuscripts. Leaves and roots drawn with precision, gold leaf reflecting candlelight in soft glimmers. He often cross-references plants mentioned in multiple texts, comparing their described effects with his own observations. Imagine the tactile sensation of parchment beneath his fingers, the smooth flow of ink from quill to page, the faint aroma of dried flowers mixed with beeswax. Each act is deliberate, each line of script a quiet bridge between centuries of knowledge. Occasionally, Hildebrand is called to attend a visitor, a weary traveler, a local noble, or a sick peasant. Imagine a farmer arriving with a minor injury or persistent cough. The monk greets them with calm attentiveness, listening carefully to their description of symptoms. He selects herbs with consideration, applies them with steady hands, and offers advice that is measured, clear, and comforting. In his presence, the fear of illness seems diminished, replaced by a steady reassurance. Healing in this world is as much about alleviating worry as it is about treating the body. One notable practice Hildebrand observed and refined involved the use of herbal compresses to treat fevers and aches. You can imagine him soaking cloth in chamomile or yarrow infusions, applying them with careful pressure, adjusting the timing based on observation, and noting results in his manuscript. This method was not dramatic, but it was effective, reflecting the broader monastic philosophy. Health is maintained through balance, care, and persistent attention rather than sudden remedies or forceful intervention. Throughout his life, Hildebrand maintained a gentle rhythm: prayer, labor, observation, and study. His interactions with the sick were deliberate and composed, never hurried, never frantic. Imagine following his movements through the infirmary, watching him gently tend to each patient, noting subtle changes, recording them faithfully. The calm precision of his actions creates an almost hypnotic sense of order and reassurance. And you, imagining yourself in this environment, begin to feel a subtle slowing of your own thoughts and breath. By nightfall, Hildebrand often reviews his manuscripts once more, cross-checking notes, comparing observations, and reflecting silently on the day's work. The faint candlelight flickers across his robes. The air carries the combined scent of ink, parchment, and dried herbs, and the world outside the monastery walls has faded into darkness. Within these quiet confines, knowledge, care, and devotion intertwine. You might sense that the very rhythm of his life, the patient observation, meticulous record-keeping, and thoughtful care, serves as both a guide for healing and a gentle lullaby for those who imagine themselves walking these halls in the soft glow of evening. As the afternoon sun fades toward evening, imagine following Brother Hildebrand deeper into the monastery, where the infirmary hums with quiet attention. Today, a new visitor has arrived, a traveling merchant seeking relief from a persistent fever. You can see the careful way Hildebrand examines him, noting pale skin, subtle fluctuations in temperature, and a slight tension in his shoulders. His assessment is thorough yet unhurried, a rhythm learned over years of patient observation. There is no alarm, no urgency, only the steady assurance of experience applied with gentle hands. Hildebrand's approach to healing blends empirical observation with spiritual awareness. He often whispers short prayers over the herbal preparations, not as an incantation of magic, but as a reminder of the delicate balance between body, mind, and soul. You might imagine the soft rustle of leaves as he crushes sage or chamomile, the faint aroma filling the air, mingling with the warmth of fading sunlight and the cool stone of the infirmary floor. Each motion is measured, crushing, mixing, applying, observing. The process is as much meditation as it is medicine, a deliberate choreography that calms patient and healer alike. Throughout the day, Hildebrand maintains meticulous records. His manuscripts are a blend of observation, reflection, and illustration. You can picture him pausing to draw a small sketch of a plant, perhaps the serrated edge of a sage leaf or the delicate roots of valerian. Marginal notes indicate the ideal time for gathering or the subtle adjustments required for different patients. These details, though minute, are essential. The monk's knowledge of healing is rooted in precision, in the careful study of nature, and in the continuity of recorded wisdom. Imagine the tactile sensation of parchment beneath his fingers, the gentle scratch of quill on paper, and the quiet concentration that transforms the day's work into enduring knowledge. Hildebrand's interactions with patients extend beyond the immediate physical treatments. He listens carefully, asks measured questions, and observes not only the ailment, but the broader context of each individual's life. Perhaps a child's sleeplessness is tied to anxiety, or a farmer's fatigue reflects weeks of overwork in harsh conditions. Imagine the calm attentiveness in Hildebrand's gaze, the subtle gestures, a hand resting briefly on a shoulder, a soothing word murmured, that convey reassurance without overwhelming the patient. His presence alone embodies a quiet philosophy. Healing is relational, grounded in patience, attentiveness, and understanding. Even as the infirmary remains occupied, Hildebrand occasionally retreats to the scriptorium, cross-referencing ancient texts to refine his understanding. He studies Greek and Roman herbalists alongside more recent monastic observations, drawing connections between old knowledge and lived experience. You might picture the faint glimmer of candlelight on illustrated pages, delicate depictions of plants and roots, each detail carefully noted. In this silent dialogue with history, he seeks patterns, guidance, and confirmation of practices that have proven effective over generations. The act is deeply meditative, a convergence of intellectual curiosity and spiritual reflection. In the quiet of early evening, Hildebrand takes a final round through the infirmary. Patients are settled, poultices adjusted, notes reviewed. You can imagine the soft click of wooden shutters, the faint echo of footsteps on stone, and the subtle reassurance of routine care. Even in moments when illness is persistent or the body resists, there is no rush, no dramatization. Each small improvement is observed, recorded, and appreciated. Each gesture, however simple, contributes to the slow, steady progress of healing. As darkness falls, the monastery grows still. The bells mark the hour for evening prayer, and the chants rise softly, filling the corridors with a resonant calm. Imagine Hildebrand pausing at his desk, closing his manuscript, and inhaling the faint scent of herbs mingling with parchment. Outside, the moon casts pale light over the cloister garden, the leaves shimmering in silver tones. There is a sense that knowledge, care, and devotion are not fleeting acts, but ongoing presences, wrapping the monastery in a gentle embrace that reaches both its inhabitants and those who imagine themselves within these walls. By the end of this day, one begins to see the quiet mastery of Hildebrand's life, a rhythm of observation, reflection, and compassionate care, where healing extends beyond physical remedies to the gentle cultivation of calm, reassurance, and mindfulness. You, the listener, might notice your own breathing slowing, your thoughts softening as the measured cadence of his day seeps into your imagination. In this way, the life of a single monk, though centuries removed, can feel immediate and comforting, a subtle lullaby whispered from the past to guide the mind toward tranquility and rest. As the night deepens within the monastery, imagine Brother Hildebrand alone in his modest cell, a single candle flickering beside a small stack of manuscripts. The day has passed in measured rhythm: observation, care, transcription, and reflection. Now, in this quiet solitude, he contemplates the broader patterns of health, illness, and healing that he has observed over years of patient attention. The air is tinged with the faint scent of dried herbs, the comforting aroma of parchment, and the residual warmth of stone walls slowly cooling in the evening. Hildebrand's reflections are subtle, almost meditative. He recalls the patients he has tended today, the merchant, the small child, the weary traveler, and notes the gentle improvements in each. Even minor shifts, a rise in color, a slowing of fever, or the relaxation of tense shoulders, are significant. Imagine the soft scratch of quill as he makes these notes, each stroke deliberate, each observation recorded with care. Here, knowledge and experience converge. Each day contributes incrementally to a growing understanding, a quiet accumulation of wisdom that transcends the immediate tasks of healing. The monk's approach to illness is holistic. He observes not only symptoms, but lifestyle, diet, sleep, and the natural rhythms of the body. Perhaps he notes the farmer's fatigue from labor in the fields, the young girl's sleeplessness from worry, or the merchant's fever aggravated by travel. Each factor is considered in the preparation of remedies, whether a poultice, an herbal infusion, or a gentle bath of fragrant leaves. The attention is painstaking yet calm, with a focus on fostering balance and supporting the body's innate ability to recover. Imagine the gentle weight of responsibility on his hands, balanced by the serenity cultivated through years of monastic discipline. In these hours, Hildebrand also contemplates the intersection of faith and healing. Prayers are whispered over herbal preparations, not as a substitution for action, but as a recognition of the spiritual dimension of life and health. You might imagine the soft resonance of chanting in the distant chapel mingling with his private murmurs, the voices carrying through the cool stone corridors. Healing, in Hildebrand's eyes, is not solely a matter of herbs and treatment. It is a harmonious interplay of physical care, observation, and spiritual attentiveness. Each element supports the other, creating a holistic sanctuary for both patient and caregiver. Occasionally, Hildebrand revisits the manuscripts of his predecessors, tracing the lines of ancient scribes, absorbing their careful observations. Greek and Roman texts blend with more recent monastic insights, creating a layered understanding that is both practical and philosophical. Imagine the gentle reflection required to reconcile these texts with lived experience, the awareness that nature is consistent, yet human bodies and circumstances are infinitely variable. The act of study becomes almost a meditative ritual, the candlelight casting soft shadows on pages rich with delicate illustrations of roots, leaves, and flowers. As midnight approaches, he makes a final round through the infirmary, ensuring that every patient is comfortable, that poultices are correctly applied, and that records are complete. The corridors are quiet, only the occasional whisper of movement, the distant toll of a bell marking the hour, and the soft flicker of candlelight guiding him. Each gesture is purposeful yet calm, reinforcing the atmosphere of quiet care that pervades the monastery. Even in darkness, the rhythm of observation and attention continues, a gentle and consistent reassurance for those under his watch. Finally, Hildebrand returns to his cell, closing the door softly behind him. He reflects on the day's lessons, the subtle observations, and the continuity of care that defines his life. You can imagine the gentle cadence of his breathing, the faint rustle of parchment as he closes manuscripts, and the comforting stillness of a world measured in careful, deliberate acts. His life is one of dedication, blending observation, patience, and subtle devotion, and it offers a timeless model of calm, methodical healing. In imagining yourself alongside him, you begin to sense the soothing cadence of centuries past, the soft routines, the meticulous care, the deliberate, meditative attention to the smallest details. Hildebrand's life is a quiet testament to the power of steady observation and mindful action. And as you picture the flickering candle, the soft shadows, and the serene presence of this devoted monk, your own thoughts begin to slow, your mind relaxing into the gentle rhythm of history, preparation, and care. The night in the monastery is long, filled with quiet diligence, thoughtful reflection, and soft, persistent attention to both human and herbal needs. It is a lullaby of patient study and compassionate presence, where every small act contributes to an overarching calm. And in this calm, the story of Brother Hildebrand becomes not just a historical account, but an invitation for the listener to settle, breathe, and drift gently into rest, accompanied by the quiet, enduring heartbeat of monastic life. Imagine yourself walking through the quiet corridors of a medieval monastery, yet now your attention is drawn not to daily routines, but to the hidden mysteries preserved within its walls. The monks, including Brother Hildebrand, were not only healers, but also careful custodians of knowledge, an amalgamation of herbal lore, religious practice, and subtle observation of the natural world. You can picture ancient manuscripts stacked carefully on wooden shelves, their pages fragile, edges yellowed, each one a silent guardian of secrets passed through centuries. One such mystery is the precise method by which monks prepared healing remedies, often shrouded in secrecy to protect both efficacy and tradition. Recipes for poultices, infusions, and salves were documented with careful language, symbols, and annotations that only those initiated into the monastic practices fully understood. Imagine opening a manuscript page, delicate illustrations of plants rendered with meticulous accuracy, marginal notes written in tiny script. The handwriting seems almost a whisper: observe, measure, respect. Each symbol is layered with meaning, a subtle dialogue between the practitioner and the plant, between healer and patient. Monasteries often served as centers of informal research, combining observation, trial, and reflection. You can picture Brother Hildebrand conducting experiments with herbal remedies, noting the effects on minor ailments, and adjusting proportions carefully. Some plants were well known. Others remained enigmatic, their properties partially understood, waiting for centuries of patient observation to reveal their secrets. The faint scent of dried leaves, the rustle of parchment, and the muted glow of candlelight create an atmosphere that is both scholarly and quietly magical. Archaeological evidence hints at the sophisticated nature of these practices. Modern excavations in monastery ruins reveal traces of carefully organized herb gardens, clay jars with residues of herbal mixtures, and inscriptions indicating specific collection times, often linked to lunar phases or seasonal cycles. You can imagine walking through these gardens, the soil soft beneath your feet, herbs swaying gently in the breeze, each plant chosen for its medicinal qualities. The arrangement itself suggests both practicality and reverence, a living library of healing, cultivated with precision and care. The cultural aspect is equally fascinating. Healing in medieval monasteries was intertwined with faith and ritual. Certain herbs were believed to carry protective qualities, their application accompanied by soft prayers or meditative chants. Imagine a monk holding a bundle of sage over a patient, the subtle fragrance rising and mixing with the faint aroma of beeswax and parchment. There's an almost ceremonial quality to these practices, yet they are grounded in observation and effect rather than superstition alone. Some mysteries remain tantalizingly unresolved. Certain manuscripts are incomplete, with missing pages or smudged annotations, leaving modern scholars to speculate on techniques lost to time. You can imagine discovering one of these pages, a detailed sketch of an unfamiliar herb, a note on preparation timing, and then a blank space where the recipe should be. The absence itself evokes curiosity, a gentle reminder of the limits of knowledge and the passage of centuries. Even in its incompleteness, the page conveys a quiet beauty, a testament to the devotion and precision of the monks who once lived within these stone walls. Beyond the manuscripts, monks also developed subtle methods to preserve their knowledge physically. Containers of powdered herbs, pressed leaves, and dried roots were labeled with codes and symbols. Some gardens had hidden alcoves, small niches carved into stone walls where particularly potent or rare herbs were kept. Imagine yourself stepping into one of these alcoves, the air heavy with the scent of concentrated herbs, sunlight filtered through a narrow window, illuminating the dust motes in a soft, ethereal glow. The space feels secretive yet welcoming, a quiet sanctuary of knowledge and care. Even everyday objects carry layers of cultural significance. Wooden pestles and mortars, small clay pots, and linen bundles are all carefully arranged, their placement reflecting both efficiency and tradition. Imagine a monk gently weighing each herb before mixing, noting subtle variations, and then returning the tools to their designated place. The process is a dance of precision, observation, and ritual, a reflection of the broader cultural understanding that healing is both a science and an art. By the end of the afternoon in your imagination, the monastery is alive not only with the routines of daily life, but also with the quiet pulse of accumulated wisdom and subtle mysteries. Each manuscript, each herb, each tool tells a story that bridges centuries. You feel a sense of calm curiosity, as if you have wandered into a place where knowledge is preserved not for spectacle, but for gentle understanding and practical care. And in this serene exploration, your mind begins to mirror the measured rhythm of the monks, slowing, observing, and drifting into contemplation of a past that is both tangible and quietly mysterious. As twilight deepens within the monastery, imagine yourself walking among shelves of ancient manuscripts, jars of dried herbs, and a soft flicker of candlelight illuminating quiet corners. Here, the mysteries of medieval healing practices intertwine with culture and subtle ritual. Brother Hildebrand, like many monks of his time, balanced observation and care with symbolic gestures that imbued everyday tasks with meaning. Each herb, each poultice, each careful record carries layers of significance beyond the purely practical. One fascinating aspect is the subtle use of symbolism in herbal remedies. Certain plants were thought to carry qualities beyond their physical effects. Lavender for calm, rosemary for clarity, sage for protection. Imagine a monk preparing an infusion of rosemary for a weary traveler, murmuring a gentle blessing, the scent rising in delicate waves. The process is calm, measured, and deliberate. In this way, cultural beliefs and practical knowledge are woven seamlessly, forming a tapestry of care that is both grounded and quietly mystical. Archaeological traces offer glimpses into these layered practices. Excavations in monastery gardens reveal carefully laid out plots, often arranged in geometric patterns. Herbs were not randomly planted. Their positions reflected both their medicinal purpose and a cultural or spiritual significance attached to them. Imagine walking through such a garden. Thyme along the northern wall, chamomile in the sunniest patch, sage tucked into a corner for easy access. Each plant is part of a living system, nurtured with attention, observation, and subtle ritual. Manuscripts complement these gardens. Imagine delicate illustrations of plants with annotations in tiny script, the time of day best for gathering, the portion of the plant to use, and even notes on the temperament of patients most likely to benefit. Some pages are annotated with soft symbols or cryptic codes, their meaning now partially lost to history, but once known to the monks who tended them. This combination of text, image, and symbolic language reflects a culture in which knowledge was both practical and sacred, preserved with care and reverence. Beyond herbs and manuscripts, the monks' tools tell their own stories. Mortars and pestles, clay jars, wooden spoons, and linen bundles were arranged meticulously, often with subtle marks indicating preferred use or ceremonial importance. Imagine Hildebrand carefully weighing powdered roots, measuring water for an infusion, and returning each tool to its designated spot. Each movement is deliberate, each gesture part of a rhythm cultivated over decades. The tools themselves, though simple, are extensions of the monk's knowledge, bridging the gap between observation and practice. Mysteries remain even in these well-documented routines. Certain remedies referenced in manuscripts are partially illegible or lost, leaving historians to reconstruct recipes through trial, comparison, and deduction. You might picture discovering one such faded page, a sketch of an unfamiliar plant, a note about its preparation, and a missing sequence of instructions. The absence creates intrigue, a quiet, unresolved tension that invites curiosity without urgency, a gentle puzzle preserved through centuries. Even ritual and prayer carried subtle layers of meaning in the healing process. Vespers and other daily prayers were often timed with specific healing tasks. A poultice applied at the same hour each day, coupled with a whispered blessing, reflected a worldview in which health, nature, and spirituality were inseparable. Imagine a monk moving through the infirmary during evening prayer, the cadence of chant providing a soothing backdrop for the precise motions of care. The patient feels reassured, not only by the remedy itself, but by the comforting rhythm of observation, attention, and spiritual grounding. By nightfall, the monastery exudes a sense of quiet mystery. Manuscripts, gardens, and tools collectively form a subtle network of knowledge and practice that is practical, cultural, and almost meditative. Walking through these spaces in your imagination, you feel a soft, enveloping calm. The meticulous attention to plants, the deliberate gestures of care, and the quiet rituals of observation create an atmosphere where knowledge and contemplation coexist peacefully. The lingering question of lost or hidden techniques adds to the allure. What ancient practices, carefully observed and noted by monks like Hildebrand, have been obscured by time? You can sense that even centuries later, the monastery holds whispers of secrets, not meant for spectacle, but for careful reflection. And as you imagine yourself amidst these archives, gardens, and quiet corridors, your thoughts begin to settle. The mysteries, the meticulous care, and the layered culture of healing gently guide your mind toward rest, a slow and soothing descent into the soft rhythm of history. As night settles over the monastery, imagine yourself walking quietly through its cloisters, where the faint glow of candlelight illuminates shelves of ancient manuscripts and carefully arranged herbs. The atmosphere is hushed, reverent, almost sacred, as if time itself has slowed to the measured rhythm of centuries-old observation. Within this stillness, the mysteries of monastic healing continue to unfold, offering glimpses of knowledge that bridges practical care and spiritual contemplation. Brother Hildebrand, like many monks before him, is guided by both observation and tradition. Some of the more enigmatic practices involve seasonal adjustments. Certain herbs gathered only at dawn, others harvested under particular lunar phases. You can picture the meticulous recording of these observations. Notes on parchment, delicate sketches of plant shapes, small symbols indicating timing or potency. The manuscripts serve not only as practical guides, but also as subtle repositories of monastic wisdom, preserving patterns that modern scholars are still striving to fully understand. Even the simplest tools carry hidden significance. Mortars and pestles, for instance, are not used haphazardly. Imagine Hildebrand selecting one carefully, noting its weight, texture, and the sound it makes as he crushes herbs. Each action is measured, each movement intentional. The tools become extensions of his knowledge, a bridge between observation, practice, and the silent traditions that govern the monastery. There is an almost hypnotic quality to this work. The repetition of measured gestures, the soft rhythm of manual labor, and the steady scent of crushed leaves combine to form a calming sensory tapestry. Beyond individual observation, the culture of secrecy and careful record-keeping adds to the monastery's aura of mystery. Certain remedies were deliberately obscured with coded annotations or marginal symbols, ensuring that only trained monks could fully interpret them. Imagine discovering one of these partially veiled manuscripts, a drawing of an unfamiliar root, a note on timing, and an enigmatic symbol that hints at a method lost to ordinary understanding. The mystery is quiet, contemplative, never urgent, inviting reflection and curiosity rather than alarm. Monks also imbued their gardens with cultural and spiritual layers. Specific plants were associated with protective qualities or symbolic meanings. Lavender might be placed near sleeping quarters to encourage rest, sage near doorways to symbolize vigilance, rosemary for clarity and memory. Picture yourself walking through these gardens at night, the moonlight casting silver shadows across neatly arranged herbs, the soft rustle of leaves underfoot, and the faint, comforting scent of dried blossoms in the cool evening air. Each plant, each carefully considered placement, reflects a harmony between practical utility and symbolic significance. Even in moments of quiet observation, the monks engaged in subtle experimentation. They adjusted mixtures, tried variations, and noted the effects in detailed manuscripts. Imagine Hildebrand observing a poultice's effect over several days, noting minor changes in patient color, energy, or comfort. His attentiveness is gentle and precise, never dramatic, creating an atmosphere in which healing becomes both science and meditative practice. The patient's response is understood not in spectacular terms, but as a subtle shift in well-being, a quiet confirmation of the monk's skill and patience. By midnight, the monastery exudes an almost tangible serenity. Manuscripts, tools, herbs, and gardens together form a network of knowledge, observation, and quiet ritual. Walking through these spaces in your imagination, you feel enveloped in a gentle calm. The mysteries are subtle, the culture is layered, and the practices are deliberate, creating a world where every action is meaningful yet soothing. Even the unknown elements, the missing pages, illegible notes, and symbols now obscure to modern eyes, carry a gentle intrigue. They hint at the depth and patience required to understand the full scope of monastic healing. There is no rush to uncover these secrets. Instead, they invite reflection, curiosity, and a slow, meditative exploration of history. As you picture yourself among these manuscripts, gardens, and tools, your mind begins to mirror the monastery's quiet rhythm. Thoughts slow, awareness of the external world softens, and the subtle mysteries of centuries past guide you toward calm and gentle contemplation. In this tranquil night, you realize that the monastery's wisdom is preserved not in grand spectacle, but in the patient observation of nature, careful record-keeping, and deliberate ritual. Every element, herbs, tools, manuscripts, chants, and shadows, works together to form a serene ecosystem of knowledge. And as you imagine yourself enveloped in this quiet, mysterious world, your own breathing slows, your thoughts soften, and a gentle calm settles, preparing you for the quiet transition into the next segment of history's lullaby. As the monastery's quiet routines continue, Imagine stepping beyond its stone walls into the broader world of medieval society. Here, life takes on a different rhythm, shaped not by contemplative devotion, but by status, wealth, and social expectation. Picture the bustling manor house of a local noble family, its high walls enclosing a courtyard alive with servants, attendants, and the distant echo of horses in the stables. The contrast to the monastery is immediate. The pace is brisker, movements more purposeful, and the stakes both subtle and tangible. In the great hall, sunlight filters through tall, narrow windows, illuminating tapestries that depict hunting scenes and ancestral achievements. The air is warm, scented with smoke from a central hearth, mingling with the aroma of roasting meat and fresh bread. Imagine the lord and lady of the manor overseeing preparations for the day's meal, their robes of fine wool and embroidered silk brushing the stone floor. Servants move swiftly, carrying platters, adjusting candelabras, and tending to the fire with precision. The rhythm here is markedly different from the monastery. Each motion carries purpose and consequence, efficiency interwoven with hierarchy. Yet, even amid wealth and privilege, there is routine and repetition. Daily activities are structured around practical needs, ceremonial obligations, and social expectation. Picture the lord examining accounts, marking payments to tenants, or inspecting the stables, while the lady oversees the pantry, ensures provisions for servants, and occasionally instructs younger girls in embroidery and etiquette. Each gesture is deliberate, shaped by a blend of authority and tradition. You might notice subtle contrasts. The hurried attention to practical matters tempered by moments of quiet reflection. The interplay of obligation and ceremony that defines aristocratic life. Food preparation and dining provide an intimate glimpse into social hierarchy. Imagine trays of bread, roasted fowl, and pottages arranged meticulously, with spice sauces reserved for the nobility, while common servants handle simpler meals. The clink of utensils, soft conversation, and distant hum of activity combine into a layered soundscape, distinct from the calm silence of monastery corridors. Even these mundane acts reflect broader social dynamics, a rhythm of privilege and duty that shapes daily existence. The elite's daily life also carries its own rituals of learning and culture. Children of the manor might receive instruction in reading, arithmetic, and religious doctrine, often guided by tutors or elder family members. Picture a young noble child seated at a wooden desk, quill in hand, copying letters with deliberate care, while a tutor quietly observes and corrects. The emphasis is on discipline, precision, and the transmission of knowledge suited to sustaining social standing. There is a subtle serenity in this structure, though it is markedly different from the contemplative calm of the monastery. Order here enforces hierarchy, while there it fosters reflection. Leisure and display also play a role in elite life. Imagine the lord practicing archery in the courtyard, his servants fetching arrows, adjusting equipment, while the lady walks through a small private garden, pausing to admire blooms or examine the progress of herbs for domestic use. Music may drift softly from a lute or harp, the notes punctuating conversation, creating a layered environment of aesthetic enjoyment. These small pleasures, structured and deliberate, provide rhythm and comfort amidst the responsibilities of status. Contrast becomes striking when considering the intersection with health and healing. While the monastery offers patient observation, ritual care, and a measured pace, the elite often rely on visiting physicians, leeches, or exotic herbs imported from distant lands. Imagine a noble lying in a high canopied bed, servants attending, a physician consulting manuscripts, and the subtle anxiety accompanying illness. Treatments may be elaborate, yet the emphasis is often on status and display as much as efficacy. This contrasts gently with the calm, deliberate practices of monks like Hildebrand, emphasizing reflection over spectacle, observation over show. By late afternoon, the manor quiets slightly. Servants carry out final tasks. The lord and lady settle in their respective studies or private chambers, and a rhythm of domestic life continues. Sunlight softens, filtering through tapestries and lattice windows, creating pools of warm illumination across polished floors. You might notice the juxtaposition of structured movement, subtle hierarchy, and ritualized attention to detail. The manor's daily life, though different in pace and purpose from the monastery, carries its own quiet patterns, a reflection of human order and care shaped by privilege and social expectation. As you imagine yourself observing these spaces, the bustling kitchen, the serene private garden, the study with quills and ledgers, you sense a gentle comparison forming. The world outside the monastery, while more dynamic and hierarchical, is still composed of patterns, rhythms, and deliberate acts. This reflection invites a subtle appreciation for the diverse expressions of care, discipline, and daily routine that characterized medieval life, each with its own calming cadence and quiet intrigue. As the day unfolds further in the manor, imagine moving through corridors where servants navigate their tasks with practiced efficiency. The life of the elite is highly structured, with routines that blend domestic necessity, ceremonial precision, and subtle displays of authority. Picture the steward reviewing records of tenants' payments, the cook supervising the preparation of evening meals, and the lady of the house overseeing the pantry and ensuring that the household runs without disruption. Each action carries the weight of responsibility, yet also provides a comforting rhythm of repeated motion. The great hall, illuminated by late afternoon sun filtering through tall windows, serves as the center of social and domestic activity. Imagine servants carrying platters of bread, roasted meats, and pottages, while chambermaids adjust the placement of goblets and silverware. The clatter of utensils, the muted conversation of workers, and the occasional distant sound of horses create a layered, calm soundscape. Even in its busyness, there is a structured serenity. Every gesture, every movement follows an unspoken choreography, ensuring the household functions smoothly and predictably. Leisure within the manor carries both education and subtle ritual. Picture a noble child learning the art of embroidery, the soft movement of thread through fabric mirrored by the steady guidance of a tutor. Music may fill the air, a lute or harp providing gentle background accompaniment, the notes mingling with the warmth of sunlight and the faint aroma of herbs and baked bread. Even seemingly idle moments are infused with discipline, cultivating skills and manners appropriate for future roles in governance, diplomacy, and household management. The elite's interaction with medicine offers a gentle contrast to monastic practice. Physicians, often trained in distant universities, are summoned for illnesses accompanied by tools, herbs, and texts. Imagine a noble reclining in a high canopy bed, attended by servants and observed by a physician consulting a manuscript. Treatments may include herbal infusions, balms, and occasionally more elaborate techniques. The emphasis is on both health and propriety, blending observation with status-conscious display. The rhythm here is deliberate, structured, and often ceremonial, offering reassurance to patient and household alike. Food and dining continue to shape daily life. Imagine trays of carefully prepared meals placed in orderly sequence. Spiced meats for the noble family, simpler fare for attendants. The aroma of roasting meat, baking bread, and simmering pottages mingles with the warmth of stone floors and wooden beams. Eating is not merely sustenance, but a ritualized performance. Placement, order, and presentation all convey social hierarchy. Even the smallest gestures, servants pouring wine, adjusting a plate, or refilling a loaf, reflect subtle patterns of care and attention that permeate the household. Outside, the manor's grounds reflect status and utility in equal measure. Gardens are cultivated for herbs, flowers, and occasional vegetables, each plot carefully maintained. Stables house horses essential for transportation, trade, and display. Imagine a young squire walking beside a tutor in the garden, learning the names of herbs while the lady of the house examines flowers for fragrance and bloom. The interplay of education, utility, and aesthetic pleasure is constant, structured, yet infused with a quiet grace. By evening, the manner shifts subtly toward calm. Servants complete final chores, tending fires and preparing sleeping quarters. The lord and lady retreat to private chambers, reviewing ledgers, correspondences, or reflecting quietly by candlelight. Imagine the soft glow on polished wooden surfaces, shadows stretching across tapestries, and the faint scent of herbs lingering in corridors. The household, though structured and hierarchical, settles into a gentle rhythm that mirrors the slow cadence of daily observation, reflection, and care seen in other aspects of medieval life, albeit expressed through the lens of privilege and social expectation. In this contrast to monastic life, you notice that the elite, while busier and more hierarchical, share the same underlying rhythm: repetition, care, and attentive observation of daily details. Tasks, whether mundane or ceremonial, are carried out with deliberate focus, creating an order that is soothing in its predictability. And as you imagine yourself moving quietly through these spaces, the courtyard, the great hall, the gardens, you feel a subtle echo of calm, a connection to centuries-old routines that are simultaneously structured, purposeful, and quietly comforting. As night fully settles over the manor, imagine yourself moving quietly through its chambers and gardens. The day's activity slows, yet a subtle rhythm continues. Servants preparing beds, coals glowing faintly in hearths, candles flickering gently, and the lord and lady retreating to private reflection. Even as the pace softens, the structure of elite life persists, a quiet balance of care, observation, and ritualized routine that extends well into the evening hours. In the private chambers, the noble family engages in quieter pursuits. Perhaps the lord reviews correspondence by candlelight, carefully noting obligations, decisions, and the rhythms of estate management. Imagine the delicate scratching of quill on parchment, the faint scent of ink and beeswax, and the soft glow illuminating polished wooden surfaces. Meanwhile, the lady of the house might walk slowly through her private chambers or small garden, arranging flowers or herbs, attending to details with gentle precision. These seemingly simple actions reflect deliberate attention, a mindfulness that echoes the calm focus of monastic routines, though expressed in the context of status and domestic authority. The manor's gardens offer a peaceful retreat from structured household activity. Picture a small herb plot tended by the lady or her attendants, rows of sage, rosemary, and thyme bathed in moonlight. The subtle fragrance of crushed leaves mixes with the cooler evening air, creating an aroma that is soothing and grounding. Even in leisure, attention to detail remains essential. Each plant, each flower, is cared for with an almost meditative rhythm, mirroring the practices of monks in distant cloisters, yet within the context of domestic elegance and privilege. Health and care continue to feature in the manor, though differently than in the monastery. Visiting physicians or trained attendants may check on the well-being of family members, adjusting poultices, herbal infusions, or warming treatments. Imagine a noble reclining in a canopy bed, lightly draped blankets covering limbs, a servant holding a tray of remedies, and the physician consulting notes. The atmosphere is calm, composed, and measured, with emphasis on observation, small adjustments, and quiet reassurance. The practices are precise, but carry an undercurrent of comfort and ritual that contrasts with the purely utilitarian focus of the monastery. Food, too, continues its evening rhythm. The last of the day's bread is sliced, pottages simmer gently, and wine may be decanted for a small, intimate supper. Servants move silently, placing dishes with care, extinguishing fires in the hearth, and ensuring warmth and order. The sensory details, the gentle clink of utensils, the warm aroma of cooking, and the soft play of candlelight on polished wood create a tapestry of calm domesticity. Even in hierarchy, the repetition of daily actions provides a subtle reassurance and continuity that mirrors natural rhythms found elsewhere in medieval life. Education and instruction carry over into the evening as well. Imagine young nobles practicing reading, arithmetic, or religious studies under the gentle guidance of a tutor. The tutor's calm, measured voice punctuates the silence, offering corrections and encouragement with soft tones. Quills scratch lightly on parchment, and the occasional rustle of clothing or turning of pages adds a quiet auditory rhythm. The structured learning, combined with serene surroundings, creates an atmosphere in which intellect, attention, and mindfulness are cultivated together, a contrast to monastic reflection, but complementary in its slow, deliberate cadence. By the late evening, the manor has settled into its nocturnal rhythm. The corridors are quiet, only faint sounds of movement, the distant hoot of an owl, or the occasional rustle of curtains. Candles burn low, casting soft shadows across tapestries, wooden beams, and stone floors. You can imagine the gentle pace of servants moving silently to complete final tasks, and the noble family engaging in quiet reflection or whispered conversation. Even amid the trappings of privilege, there is a serenity in the predictable patterns of care, observation, and attention to daily life. As you picture yourself moving silently through the manor at night, the contrasts with monastic life become clear yet complementary. Both realms emphasize observation, ritual, and care, though expressed differently. One through contemplation and healing, the other through hierarchy, domestic order, and privilege. The evening's quiet rhythm, infused with deliberate movement, attentive observation, and subtle sensory detail, invites the mind to settle. And as the moonlight softens across the manor, a gentle calm permeates both the imagined space and your own consciousness, drawing you closer to the reflective serenity that accompanies the close of the day. As our journey through the quiet corridors of history comes to a close, imagine the soft fading of daylight and the gentle deepening of night. We have wandered together through monasteries and manors, through gardens and manuscripts, through the subtle rituals of daily life across centuries. Each scene, each act has been a gentle cadence, a slow, measured heartbeat of lives lived long ago. And now, as you listen in the quiet of your own space, you can allow yourself to drift alongside these rhythms, letting the stories settle softly around you. The monks, with their patient attention to healing, their careful observation of herbs, and their thoughtful devotion, remind us of the beauty in slow, deliberate action. The noble families, with their structured routines, gardens, and quiet domestic rituals, reflect a different kind of order, one of hierarchy and privilege, yet also of mindful attention and subtle grace. Together, these glimpses form a tapestry of medieval life, varied, layered, and soothing in its own way. You might imagine the flickering candlelight of a monastery cell, the soft rustle of leaves in a moonlit garden, the gentle hum of a lute in a noble hall. Each detail, though simple, contributes to a calming mosaic. Even the mysteries, the faint traces of lost manuscripts, and the quiet intricacies of rituals and remedies offer a subtle invitation to observe slowly, reflect gently, and restfully contemplate the delicate beauty of lives lived long ago. If this kind of storytelling brings you a sense of peace, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it genuinely soothes your mind. And do let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's strangely comforting to know who else is out there, falling asleep to the same soft whispers of history. Dim the lights, settle in, and let the cadence of centuries, of herbs crushed, candles flickering, and gardens swaying, carry you gently toward rest. As you close your eyes, the quiet rhythm of observation and care continues softly in your imagination. The monk's patience, the noble's structured calm, the enduring mysteries of manuscripts and gardens, they all merge into a gentle lullaby. Each story, each ritual, each subtle act of care becomes part of the soft hum that eases your mind. Allow yourself to drift with it, slowly, peacefully, and without urgency. History, even in its simplicity or complexity, can be a comforting companion. The echoes of past lives, the gentle patterns of daily action, and the serene cadence of attentive care remind us that even in a world vastly different from our own, there is rhythm, order, and quiet beauty. Let these reflections rest with you as your own thoughts soften, your breathing slows, and the gentle pull of sleep begins to take hold. Thank you for joining me, the sleepy historian, in this calm exploration of the past. May the gentle stories of monks, nobles, gardens, and manuscripts accompany you into rest, and may your night be as peaceful as the quiet monasteries and serene manors we have visited together. Sleep well, and until the next whisper of history, let the past cradle you gently into dreams.